Thursday, March 10th, 2022, a day that the Philadelphia 76ers fans have been waiting for weeks, maybe months. Only a two-game slate to talk about here, so a late start on this Thursday here. NBA Live, FTN Daily, Zach Graham, Kawhisenberg DFS, David Jones, Tenacious D. Jones, along with you for this two-game slate. Nationally televised doubleheader, TNT, one of our favorite nights of the week. David, how you feeling?
Feeling pretty good, man. I've been waiting for this game too. It's not just Philadelphia. Like, it's going to be
Sure.
an environment in Philly. So I am looking forward to it. Ben Simmons, it sounds like, was forced to go to the game by Coach Nash. I don't know if you read up on any of that. You know he was trying to get out of it. You know he was trying to get out of it. He wouldn't show his face in the arena. So I don't know. He's got what's coming to him. I mean, it's not going to be bad. He's not playing. I mean, it's going to be bad. He's not playing, but I don't know, man. He quit on his city, so he deserves everything that's coming to him.
Yeah, I don't. I feel like I'm in a tough spot on this because I think I feel that both sides are wrong in a sense, and both sides are right in a sense. If that makes any sense, I think there's going to be a lot of people. I see Tyreek in the chat saying, and again, our Philly contingent here at FTN buzzing since this morning. Tyreek saying he's upping his number to over 12.5 arrests at the game tonight. And I don't know if he's wrong, man.
Out of the drug out of the stadium, like Dave Portnoy style at the Super Bowl.
Tyreek, let us know. Is that like on the night or is it in the arena? Things can get wild in the Philly streets. We know that.
Who wins the game? I think Philly wins.
I also think Philly wins.
Yeah, I think Philly wins. I think Joel Embiid is going to go absolutely nuts. But in the same breath, that doesn't mean that. All right, so we can start talking about the slate. Like, that doesn't mean that Jokic can't go nuts against the Warriors either. Sure. And that doesn't mean that an underpriced Andre Drummond isn't going to be in there for as much time as he can possibly take against Joel Embiid at a cheap price on FanDuel. So I think all three of the centers do excellent. And so that's the conundrum tonight. And then also, like, what happens with these Nuggets guys that I've got my eyes on. We've got 4 questionable Nuggets guys, all that I think that could be in play. And so we're going to have to wait for that news. We're not going to get it before lock, so we got to wait.
Yeah. And we didn't even bring up Nick Claxton yet, who could also be in play as an interesting value there. Certainly Embiid going to put some foul trouble onto this Nets front court. Again, we've got about 40 minutes here, 2 games to cover. So we'll go ahead and get into it. Hugo chiming in saying, sometimes people need to be reminded to be nice, especially sports fans. But Ben did pull a bitch-ass move or two on his way out. That's kind of where I am. That's kind of where I am, David. Is like, I think that there's a lot of things you can say, and there's a lot of things you shouldn't say to athletes, pro athletes, college athletes, whoever, because they are still people. But on the other side, especially with somebody who, with the track record over the last, 8 months that Ben Simmons has with that team, with that city, it's not like guys are fans should be sitting on their hands tonight and not giving him the business. So it's tough.
I mean, just because, look, he's got like the mental health issue thing that he has brought up and may or may not be like a huge, we really don't know. But if you put that aside, like, he has done plenty of things to warrant just getting absolutely destroyed at this game. Like, Ben Simmons is not a cool dude. I don't care if he's got the mental health thing or not. He's never been. And and he pulled a ton of bitch ass moves. I mean, it's honestly, I'm going to say it's the worst, sportsmanship or dedication to a team that I have ever seen in any sport in my entire life or have ever heard about.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's some other examples of, I don't know.
Put them in Discord. What are other examples of that? I would like
big time, like NBA or NFL or any other sport, like saboteurs, right? Guys who quit on their own team and put their team in a bad spot. And I mean, Philly's got one, David, off the top of my head. Harden's like first ballot Hall of Fame saboteur. Got his way out of Houston, got his way out of Brooklyn, quit on those teams.
Well, a lot of people quit on teams, but it's more, in my opinion, the way he quit on the team, and just like how it was really, really bad and really pathetic.
Sure.
James Harden would have played at least on the team. Aaron Rodgers didn't want to be on the Packers. I mean,
Sure.
there's a lot of examples of people wanting out of cities, but the way he did it is
Yeah.
unexcusable, and I'll hate him forever.
Shaq. Yeah, and then Herm says, "What are we even talking about? Philly literally has a guy on their team who did the same shit." Yeah, it's same
Different.
but different. I would also say my guy, Kawhi Leonard. He quit on us his last year in San Antonio.
He sure as hell did, and that doesn't
Yeah,
get talked about enough.
yeah. But I mean, he also brought us a championship, Finals MVP. Guy wanted to work somewhere else. Whatever. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. The first game on the slate is the one that everybody's talking about, Brooklyn at Philadelphia. Injury report for this first game. On the Brooklyn side, no LaMarcus Aldridge, obviously no Joe Harris, no Ben Simmons, of course. Day'Ron Sharpe and David Duke down with the G League team, so they're inactive tonight. On the Philly side, Charles Bassey, Charlie Brown Jr., Miles Powell, Jaden Springer, all down with their G League team, and Danny Green out with a left finger laceration. Other than that, these teams full go. And let's start with the home team, the Philadelphia 76ers, because my favorite play on the slate, no hot takes here, David, it's Joel Embiid for 10-8 on DraftKings. I know a little bit different maybe on FanDuel, where you only get the one center, and you've got Jokic and Drummond and Embiid and Claxton all only center only, I should say. And we've got plenty of time, so we can bounce between FanDuel and DraftKings here. Embiid's my favorite DraftKings play on the night. How do you feel about Embiid, the Sixers as a whole? And then again, give me that FanDuel perspective, because I know you're over there.
I want to stress something, that this is going to be a playoff atmosphere. The starters are going to get a ton of run. So I don't think, like, there's no way I would play more than one guy off the bench in the game to start. The starters are going to get full run, playoff atmosphere, close game, maybe high scoring. We'll see. Could be. Vegas thinks, the public thinks so. So the total's been shooting up. I agree that Joel Embiid, totally great spot. And like, it might sound like I'm making a case for Jokic over Embiid, but I'm really not. It's a really hard spot to be in. Technically, if you look at the numbers, what Golden State has done against maybe we just talk about it all the games at once. I don't know. I guess that's what I'm doing. But if you look at what like Golden State has done against centers, like Jokic should be able to take care of them. He's leading by a large margin of like the easiest pathway to do so. Points per minute, Nikola Jokic 1.9 per minute over the last 7 games. Joel, and I should also say that he's had a much easier schedule for the center. Joel Embiid 1.49. That's a huge difference. That's a 0.5 difference. Andre Drummond 1.26. DeMarcus Cousins 1.66. That can also be contributed to the easier schedule that the Nuggets have had. We know that these guys are some of the best players in the NBA. We know that they are huge point per minute guys. Doesn't matter what the matchup is. But if you look at the matchups, Nikola Jokic has a better path to success. And everyone's excited about Joel Embiid. He'll be higher owned because he has a cheaper salary, and everyone's focused on the narrative. And Joel Embiid is a narrative buster. He goes out and delivers when you think he can. TNT against Giannis, against Durant, all of these things, hating Ben Simmons. He's going to absolutely deliver tonight for sure. But that's also not to say Nikola Jokic can't. If I had to choose the highest scoring person, I'd probably say it's Jokic. If I had to choose my favorite center, it'd perhaps be Joel Embiid because the price is cheaper. If I have to choose my favorite value on FanDuel, it's going to be Andre Drummond because I think they keep him on Embiid as long as he can. Everyone on both of these teams in the Net 76ers game has narrative. They've all been traded to one another, whatever. It doesn't matter. Huge game. I love Embiid. I love Jokic. I have more Embiid because the price is cheaper. 90% of my teams have one of those two centers. If I was on DraftKings, I would probably double stack them.
Sure. Yeah, I don't hate that at all. And interestingly enough, I think there's enough value to make that work and not feel disgusted by the other 6 players in your DraftKings lineup. We can get into some of those values as we go. But you see James Harden there, a little bit cheaper than Embiid, I believe, on both sites. Yeah, $400 cheaper on FanDuel and $400 cheaper on DraftKings as well. So how do you feel about Harden? Like, I think his ceiling is a little bit higher than Embiid. I think that's kind of how I'm treating this duo in general going forward, at least on DraftKings, because we can get that triple-double bonus. Obviously, he's live for that anytime he steps on the court. But I think Embiid is going to carry the higher floor, and his ceiling's not much lower than James Harden's is. But with all the focus on these centers tonight, I think James Harden may come in pretty low owned. I know in Kyle's last update, he had, well, I guess I'm speaking out of turn here, 45% projected ownership on James Harden in his last run. But how do you feel about him compared to, like, you know, we kind of bled into that other game a minute ago, so I'll do it again here.
Yeah.
Harden, Steph Curry, Kyrie Irving, kind of the other spend-ups on the slate. Do you have a preference with those spend-up guards?
Okay, so here's the deal with that. If you don't play Embiid, then you have to play Harden. Those are the two highest usage guys on the slate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on the slate, on the team, obviously, if it's on the slate. So, like, if you compare it like team per team, y'all know what I'm saying. So if you don't have Embiid, you have to play Harden. But I'm sitting here thinking now, like, Kevin Durant's going to be on Harden, which isn't an easy matchup. If I have to choose, like, just my favorite guard on the slate, dude, I think it's going to be Steph Curry. Sure. I think people are sleeping on Steph Curry a little bit tonight. His price has finally come down a little bit. Like, he's got an easier matchup by far than Harden's going to have going up against Durant. Yeah. He's cheaper. You can play Embiid and get off Harden. I mean, Steph Curry. All right. Here's another thing too. So this is something I didn't expect to find. The Nets and the 76ers over the past week. Did you read my article today?
I did not get a chance to go through it. So enlighten me, please.
Okay. So the best two teams against guards, and I mean, you might as well consider James Harden a point guard, whatever. I mean, he's going to have the ball in his hand the most over Maxey. The best two teams in the NBA over the past 2 weeks at defending point guards are the 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets. The best two, which is something I didn't expect to see. And then you go over and you look at Steph Curry going up against the Nuggets, who are the worst team on the slate defending the point guard, allowing almost 50 fantasy points per game. To me, it's pretty easy, man. I don't love Harden's matchup. I love Steph Curry's matchup, and he's going to be lower owned. So Steph Curry's my favorite guard on the slate. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to have a ton of James Harden. I am. But if I'm forced to pick one, then I think it's going to be Steph Curry. And on that team, I would have Joel Embiid because that means I don't have Harden.
So is that a rule that you would set if you were crunching, 20 lineups, 150 lineups, is at least one of Harden and Embiid in every line? Like, I think you'll probably get that in most regardless. But to make sure that you have one of those, maybe a rule everybody sets in the opto tonight.
You have to. And if for some reason it doesn't work out, just know you did the right thing. You have to do that. The two highest usage players on the team that directly correlate to one or the other having a huge game. So yeah, you have to do that.
Well, it's kind of interesting to watch the line movement, not just on this game, but both games. The implied total has increased, but on last refresh, this Sixers Nets game, 236.5. I want to say when I saw it open last night, it was like 225, 226.
Holy
so it's come up. Yeah, it's come up a ton.
I saw 229. I would smash the ever living fuck out of the under on that. If
really?
It's it. Yeah, I mean,
236.5.
Yeah. I mean, if it's gone up that much, I just read you about how good the guards, the defense has been recently for these guys. That is the public jumping on this game. That is what that is. 236. It is going under. I'm going to book that.
There you go. Free bets from Tenacious D Jones on the NBA live stream. And let's get into some of these other, talk a lot about Harden, Drummond as we get the starting lineups here. Harden, Maxey, Tybull, Harris, Embiid for the Sixers. Irving, Curry, Seth Curry, that is Bruce Brown, Kevin Durant, Andre Drummond for the Nets. Maxey obviously had a nice streak, shooting the ball really well since Harden came over. His 6 of 13 last time out was his worst shooting performance since Harden was activated for this team. But, the peripherals, the usage, way down for a guy like Tyrese Maxey, and the price remains high. At least on DraftKings, he's 7-4. Tobias Harris, though, his price is way down, 6'3". Anthony, turn off the stream. I know you don't want to hear it. I think Tobias Harris is an interesting play at 6'3" on DraftKings. I mean, we got to find places to differentiate on a 2-game slate. And I don't think you're going to have to play a ton of Tobias Harris to get over the field. Last refresh, Kyle had him at 26%. So, maybe matching that in a build of 20. I don't think I want to go too much higher than that. That's actually higher than I thought it was going to be. And maybe that number is being buoyed by the price decrease that Tobias Harris has seen over the last couple weeks. I mean, 6'3", it has been years since we saw Tobias Harris at 6'3". I certainly can't recall his price being down that low, but it's for good reason. He's very much the fourth option in this offense right now. How do you feel about Maxey and Harris as kind of contrarian mid-range plays?
As far as contrarian, I'm fine with it. The thing with Maxey is that he's been shooting at an unsustainable rate. He's a good player, but neither of them are a priority for me. It should be the Embiid and Harden show, at least them attempt to put on a show. I mean, they're going to clearly take more shots, have more usage than the other guys. If I had to choose one, it'd be Maxey over Harris, just because, and I think Harris is getting a bad rap. Like, I think Harris is still a good player, but his usage gone down. DFS players are like, oh, he's garbage now, whatever. He's a good player, but you're sharing the court with James Harden and Joel Embiid. So I'm not, they're neither one of them or anyone I'm going out of my way to get.
That makes sense to me. Let's real quick just kind of talk through. I don't think we're going to have a ton of love for the Philadelphia value pieces, but Ty Bull getting the start. He's 3-4 on DK. You're going to need probably, like I was actually discussing with one of my super draft coworkers today that the line on his points was 5.5, and that I might take the over on his stocks if they were at 5.5 before the points for Matisse Thybulle. Jokes aside, this is a guy at 3-4 that if he does put up, 3-4 stocks, gets a couple buckets, you would expect him to be out there, I think, 30 plus minutes tonight with the job he's going to have to do on Kevin Durant and the fact that Danny Green is out for this team. I think he's probably, for lack of a better term, my favorite Philadelphia value, but favorite is still not somebody I'm getting a ton of on this team. Niang, DeAndre Jordan, Furkan Korkmaz, probably the rest of the guys that are going to get some time off the bench here. Maybe an Isaiah Joe stint with Danny Green out. But I think the rotation's pretty consolidated here, and I think I'm really only looking at starters from Philly.
That's what you should be doing. We can talk about Shake Milton in a second, because I think some people are high on him. Yeah. You said Thybulle's point total is 5 points?
5.5, I think, is the line that I saw today. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you take the over on that, because he's the value forward that I wrote up. So,
sure.
All right. The Nets over the past 7 days have been the worst team in the NBA defending the small forward. Now, I realize that all the usage, it's not going to be going to Thybulle. It's going to be going to the big two. We already know that.
Sure.
Nets are allowing 51.40 fantasy points per game to the small forward, worst in the league over the past week. You don't expect him to go drop 50, but at the cheap price that he's at, I really don't see how he doesn't hit value. Like, he should hit value. It's the best. It's technically the best spot on the entire slate to attack. If you're looking at averages against the league, against the position over the past week, past 14 days. But it's Matisse Thybulle at the same time. Like, I understand that, but they've been giving him more run. He's been playing better. He's worked his way into a starting NBA player, which he was not that 1 and 2 years ago. I think it's a very good value play, and I have plenty of Matisse Thybulle. Now, the problem with getting Matisse Thybulle is that, like, it takes away maybe some of the mid-range guys that you're targeting that have a higher floor and ceiling, but he's over 5 actual points. And I can't fade the best spot on the slate. I'm selling it too hard, but technically on paper, it's the best spot on the slate against the position at a cheap price. So I have a lot of Matisse Thybulle.
Sure. And that makes a ton of sense to me, looking at Kyle's ownership projections. Only 27% on Thybulle. So on a 2-game slate, that is not high owned at all. It would be much different on like a 12-game slate like last night. So point well taken there. Projected for a tad over 16.5 DK points is Tybal. You mentioned Shake Milton, somebody that I kind of left out of my list there by mistake. 3K, I assume, is a similar price over there on FanDuel. You know, hasn't really performed well in the last 4 or 5 games since Harden joined the team. That makes sense. But on a 2-game slate, I think he's somebody that certainly makes my player pool. And I think I would have at least 1 or 2 shares of Shake Milton if I was building my 20 lineups today. How are you treating Shake Milton?
I mean, so 10% Shake Milton, like you just gave the example of, isn't like terrible. So, but at the same time, I'll say this: he's a bad play. I think Shake Milton's a bad play. He's Jordan Nwora. I said it the other night. It's not. He's cheap. He got minutes the past 2-3 games, whatever. He's exceeded value like 2 of the last 3. This is not a Shake Milton game. Like, we've seen this plenty of times. The starters are going to get a ton of run for Philadelphia. Shake Milton is not in the game plan. He's going to get bench minutes and nothing more. He's not going to 25 minutes or whatever. Even if it's a blowout, it's not going to be a blowout. Even if it's a blowout, they're leaving the starters in. To me, it's not a Shake Milton game. The only way that Shake Milton is going to be on the winning team tonight is if he goes out and gets 3 steals. That's it. I think he's a bad play. I'm trying to limit my exposure to him. Now I'm doing 150 lineups, so I'm ending up with a little bit of him. But I think Shake Milton's a bad play.
How about this Brooklyn side? For me, it's pretty clearly Kevin Durant over Kyrie Irving if I was playing today. Just a higher floor, higher ceiling, in my opinion. Kyrie's going to have to get you there with points. And David, you made the point of how good these teams have been against the guard positions over the last few weeks. Kyrie obviously coming off the 50 burger, but hasn't exceeded 6 assists in his last 5 games, hasn't exceeded 5 rebounds. To me, he's going to need 35, 40 real points to be optimal on DraftKings tonight with all the other studs that are available on this 2-game slate. He's by no means a bad play. I think I prefer certainly both centers, KD, of course, and Steph over Kyrie tonight.
Yeah, I'm the same way. So I think I'm going back and looking right now. I'm not like, look, I say Kyrie's been playing great, whatever. You can have Kyrie if you don't have Durant. I think I made a rule to have either Durant or Kyrie. I know I did. Then sure, great. Like it's Kyrie Irving. He's a great player, but I would much rather have Kevin Durant. And that goes with, so he came back the past 3 games. He's had some rust on him, whatever. It's fine. Still Kevin Durant. If you look at something that I've been like profitable with doing with DFS is if you look at like the position, and it used to be easier on like FanDuel because there wasn't all this multi-position eligibility. It's kind of changed the way I do things, but go look at the forward position and you tell me how big of a gap there is between Kevin Durant and the next best guy. There's no way any other forward is going to outscore Kevin Durant, and his floor is probably 20 points higher, 15 higher than the next guy, and his ceiling's 30 points higher than the next guy. I'm locking in Kevin Durant in almost every lineup because he's at the position that's so thin, and you take the guy that's expensive and you take the guy that can score a lot of points at a thin position, and I'm locking him in and I'm going forward with it. That doesn't mean that I can't have Curry on the same team. You can, but I just don't in a lot of cases. So Kevin Durant, I think, is my favorite lock play of the night. Actually, I know it is favorite lock play of the night just because there's no one else at the forward. You can get James Harden on FanDuel, I guess you can, because he's small forward eligible, but it's kind of a different conversation. Kevin Durant's going to be my guy.
So for the centers here, LaMarcus Aldridge is out. Obviously, we talked about Day'Ron Sharpe being down with the G League. So your front court options here for Brooklyn, they're starting Andre Drummond. Nick Claxton is going to back him up. Both of those guys center only. 5-7 for Drummond on DK. Claxton all the way down at 3-2. Andre Drummond is one of my favorite plays on the slate. I don't think he's picking up enough ownership for the upside that he has on this 2-gamer. We're looking right now at just 20% projected ownership for Andre Drummond on DraftKings. I would be way over that if I was running my 20 lineups tonight on DK. Historically, going back to his days with Detroit, obviously the offense was more focused on him. There was more usage, more minutes for Andre Drummond back then. He wasn't playing with 2 future Hall of Famers. But fantasy points per minute, right? Like his rates were fine, like 1.35 DK points per minute. And I don't even think you need that at 5'7", if he gets 24, 25 minutes tonight, I think you're going to be really happy with his fantasy score at the end of the night. To me, the only way that the Andre Drummond play really just gives it to you and tanks your lineups tonight is foul trouble. And of course that could happen, but on this 2-game slate, 20% owned Andre Drummond. I'm going way over that, and I'm going to live with the outcome if he does pick up, 2 fouls in the first, a quick third in the second, etc. But I would also have some Nick Claxton, because if Drummond's playing 18 minutes because of foul trouble, Claxton's going to pick up those extra minutes. And we've seen him twice already this year put up very acceptable scores that I think we would be ecstatic to have mid-20s and higher in the 2 meetings that Claxton played this season against Embiid.
Well, that's a good point. I didn't go back and look at Claxton against Embiid, which was going to be my counterpoint. So that's a good find by you.
Yep, 27 and 29 and 3/4 DK points. Played 22 minutes in that first outing. That was December 16th, and 2 weeks later got 33 minutes in that one. So I think we're going to have some huge Andre Drummond foul trouble if we see Nick Claxton getting 30-plus minutes tonight. But at his price on DK, David, like he doesn't need 30 minutes to get on top of that price tag.
Okay, sorry, I got distracted. Did someone just drop like what Kyle Kuzma's wearing? Okay, so
did they?
All right, I was thinking about this earlier, and I was like, "What if you?" I mean, it's not like terrible, I guess.
Are you talking about the Simmons, like the shoes that he's wearing, and the?
No, the shoes are cool actually, but like I don't know. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. I was wondering like what he was going to show up in, but he's there.
Yeah.
That's funny. All right, sorry. What's the question?
No worries. I was just continuing to talk about Claxton and how I think he's a really interesting value. I know Jake Anderson in the chat was talking about how he was interested in maybe stacking both of those guys because in his eyes, and I think I tend to agree with this logic about the minutes, that all 48 minutes at center will come from Andre Drummond and come from Nick Claxton today. So if you can get, you're spending like 9K on 48 minutes of Brooklyn center. I think there's worse things you could do. Certainly if you're running multiple lineups like I know Jake is. How do you feel about if you were on DraftKings pairing those 2 guys and spending up elsewhere?
Are you talking like I'm trying to keep up with what you're saying? You're talking about pairing up Claxton and Drummond?
Yeah.
Pairing them up and taking all the minutes. That's an interesting concept, but it's that's like a well thought out idea, but for me, I wouldn't do it because you're going up against Joel Embiid. I just wouldn't do it. I don't want to take anyone really against Joel Embiid. I certainly don't want to take 2 of them, but I don't disagree that that's a pretty well thought out process of just taking all the center minutes. Like, but that's not something I'm doing.
Sure. Another guy that I really go ahead, David.
Let me read something out because I have it pulled up and it might, I don't know if it's helpful or not. We'll see. But I'm just looking at like point per minute over the last 5 games. I can do 10 games. I can do season. Doesn't matter. But if you just want to know like the order of how well people are doing point per minute, it'd be Jokic, Cousins, Embiid, Harden, Kyrie Irving. There's no way you would guess the next one. It's Bones Highland. Do you know what Do you know what Bones' real name is?
Nashawn.
Very good. And then after that, it's Andre Drummond, followed by Kevin Durant and Bruce Brown. I was surprised to see Bones Highland's name on there. Should we talk about that game, or are we going to do that after live?
No, we can get to it. The last couple guys I want to touch on from this game. I know we've been on this game for about a half an hour now. Seth Curry for me is a secondary play along with Patty Mills. You're going to need those guys to just hit their shots and score real points to get you there, even at their prices. You're probably going to get 30-ish minutes of Seth Curry. I would prefer him to Patty Mills, but I prefer Goran Dragic to either of those guys. I think he could get into the 20s in minutes off the bench here, and at 3.6 on DraftKings, he's way too cheap. He's one of my favorite values on the slate. I'm not getting to James Johnson, neck tat. I'm not going to take a chance on Blake Griffin. I think he could get out there for one stint, especially if there's foul trouble, but I think that's something Coach Nash is going to avoid. Any other pieces from this Brooklyn team that draw your eye?
Not particularly, no. Like I said, I think it'll be pretty tight rotation over there. There's no one else on Brooklyn I have to have. Like Goran Dragic, I went back and looked at like the past 3 games he's played because I was thinking he got more run because it was a blowout in the last game, but that's not necessarily true. He had the game against Miami like 2-3 games ago, whatever it was, 3 games ago, and got some run too. But you got, or was it Toronto, Miami? Kind of a revenge narrative there too. I'm a little bit lower on Dragic than maybe other people would be, but
Sure.
I don't know that like I don't have, I'd rather have like some of the like Golden State guys or perhaps the Denver guys, but we need Will Barton, Jeff Green, Bones Highland, and Zeke Naji-News.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and transition to that last game, 10 p.m. Eastern. Golden State going to the elevation there in Denver to take on the Nuggets. 229 implied total here with the Warriors 2-point road favorites. David mentioned the injury news we're still waiting on for Denver. It's Will Barton questionable, Jeff Green questionable, Bones Highland questionable, and I believe Aaron Gordon probable and expected to play. I think that Will Barton and Bones Highland will play here tonight. Obviously, last night against Sacramento, both of those guys sat. And so actually, did Bones play last night? No, he didn't.
No,
okay, good. Just making sure I didn't miss that. I think those guys both sat because they're going to play tonight in kind of what is the more important game, the tougher game for them to win, taking on the Kings last night, and obviously battling the Warriors for playoff positioning here in the top 6. So I have both of those guys in right now. It kind of makes this entire team outside of Jokic just like for me. Like they're okay. Like I'm fine playing Barton, especially he's probably going to have low ownership. So in tournaments, I think that's a little bit interesting. Shooting guard only on DraftKings. I don't have a ton of Aaron Gordon love, but again, 5.4 price tag. He's probably not going to kill your lineup. I just don't know, David, if those guys are going to win me a tournament tonight in a tough matchup against Golden State. I think Monty Morris, out of those 3 mid-ranged starters in terms of price, would be my favorite guy to go to, but it's Jokic obviously in a tier of his own.
Well, Monty Morris would have the second best matchup at point guard on the slate behind Steph Curry. This is the point guard matchup is the second game. So do you think Jeff Green plays? He just had a baby last night, but it's at home.
So I'm glad you know what I didn't know what the personal issue was. I was leaning that he was going to sit because I think regardless of personal issue, the fact that happened last night, like
baby,
I don't know. I guess the fact that they're at home, leaves it open to maybe him playing, but I don't know, man. You have the experience there over me. Would you be going to play a basketball game if your baby was born last night?
Yeah, man, I'll be trying to get out the damn house.
Yeah.
Trying to go hoop it up a little bit. I mean, we'll have to see, but he would be too cheap and could possibly draw the start as well.
I think he does start if he is active.
In which case he'd be too cheap coming off a baby game. If you're into narratives, look here. This is how I'm doing it. If I don't have Jokic on a team, when I was doing my FTN Opto crunches, then I have 2 Nuggets, because if you don't have Jokic, you're going to need 2 Nuggets to pick up that usage. The same thing I did with Embiid. If I don't play Embiid, I played 276ers. So I think Will Barton, if he plays, is like way too cheap. On FanDuel, he's $4,900, like, which is way too cheap. And I have a ton of him over on FanDuel. But the issue is I don't know if he's going to play. I'm going to have to adjust and drop down if he doesn't play to somebody else, which none of them are really great options because they all split minutes. Like you had, what's his name? Was it Reed? Who started for Barton last night?
I don't think Devon Reed got out there.
Yeah, it was Reed. It was Reed.
Was it really? I thought it was Rivers.
No, Reed started last night, but he only played 22 minutes. And then you had someone else. There was who is it? Let me find it. I'm on a show. I guess I have to tell you the names here. So all right. So
Rivers did start, but Reed was also in the 5.
Okay.
That's what it was.
That was it. Because you also had Green out. So Reed drew the start, but you also had Zeke Naji, Campazzo, and someone else play similar minutes off the bench. In which case
JaMychal Green played 20.
JaMychal Green, thank you. So we got to wait on the news. I'm not too interested in Reed, even if he starts. I'd rather play Campazzo off the bench if Barton is out. because Barton, I think, is a better player, and he's not going to be sharing as much usage with Jokic because Jokic wouldn't be on the floor all of the same time as Campazzo, where I think Reed would be on the floor the same time as Jokic almost the entirety of the game. So if Barton's out, Campazzo. If Barton's in, Barton's way too cheap. If Barton's in, that hurts Morris a little bit. That also potentially hurts Gordon a little bit, although not that much. If you don't have Jokic, you should consider Barton, Morris, or Gordon and play probably at least two of them on your non-Jokic teams. I feel like I'm talking quick and I get like the Matrix thing sometimes, but did you understand what I was saying there, Zach?
Yeah, absolutely. And your internet has been impeccable today.
Thank you.
Been super clear. So I don't know. I think it's maybe the likes. I see, but I have that theory, right? The more likes we get, the better the internet is. But we only got 8 likes on this video, David. So like 40 people watching, 8 likes. That's a terrible. It's a terrible ratio. We need more likes. So if you are watching this show, this free stream on YouTube, go ahead and hit that like button as we get into the Warrior side of things and close out this 2-game slate.
All right.
I know you've already made your Steph Curry case. Great matchup. The price is down a little bit. But how about kind of the mid-range guys there? Andrew Wiggins, Klay Thompson, who has been shooting poorly, especially by his standards. And then Jordan Poole, who's been playing really well, regardless of who's active or if he's starting or off the bench. How do you feel about those guys?
Yeah, so that's interesting, right? Because Klay Thompson, top 75 all-time, Klay Thompson, his price is down to like 5,500. You think Klay's top 75 all-time?
I have like other biased issues with that list,
It's
future
it's
Hall
okay
of
to say no.
Famers. Yeah, I mean, I think he's very close. I would personally have Tony Parker on that list, but
Tony Parker was great. Anyways,
Finals MVP, All-Star, 4-time champ.
Tony Parker was great. That's actually one of the better names I've heard thrown into the conversation that wasn't in the conversation. It's an interesting case between Poole and Klay. Like you said, Klay hasn't been shooting as great. Poole's been playing very, very well, especially off the bench. If it turns into a blowout scenario, Poole gets a little bit more run, but he's pretty secure around 30 minutes, no matter what. But Klay can get buckets when he wants. I mean, you still have to go with Klay Thompson over Poole, I think. But Seth Curry's way above both of them. I made a rule to either have Curry, Klay, Poole, or Wiggins in every team. I want one of those high ceiling Warriors on every team. I would rank it Curry. I'd rank it Klay after that. Let me see if I'll take Wiggins over Poole.
Sure.
Probably, let's see. Denver against a small forward over the past, 7 right now, been the 5th worst in the league, allowing 44 and 35. Assists high, rebounds high, points average. Against the shooting guard and guard, they've been better. So I would probably put Wiggins 3rd and then Poole 4th.
Sure. I think on DraftKings for me, I'm certainly taking Klay over Andrew Wiggins because if one of those guys is going to pop off for a huge game, I'm not putting in the call for 60 points on 11 dribbles tonight, but we know that Klay has that upside, and at some point the shooting is going to turn around for him and he's going to have a huge game. But I think Poole I would have more exposure to over Wiggins and Klay because of his price. Like he's 5'2" on DraftKings. You're saving $1,400 and $1,800 respectively off Thompson and Wiggins, and Poole's been playing great of late, starting or off the bench. And I think he gets potentially closing time with the 5 if this game stays close as it's projected to.
Yep.
But with the Nuggets on a back-to-back, I think there is potential for a blowout here in favor of the Warriors. And if that happens, Poole is getting some of that blowout run. So at 5'2" on DK, I would have a good amount of him. And then I have a lot of interest in the front court players here with Otto Porter, Draymond Green. Who else is out? Obviously, Iguodala out, who can play some 4. I like Kuminga at 4-3. I think Looney is a very good low-owned center play at 4-1. He's had some good fantasy success against Jokic this season. 2 of their 3 matchups, he put up results that you would have loved to have at a 4-1 price tag. And then Nemanja Bjelica probably only going to play 18 to 20 minutes, but with those other guys out, he's 100 off the minimum on DK, power forward eligible. That's somebody that I would be mixing into my MME builds because we know Bjelica can go out there and put up mid-20s in fantasy points with high teens in minutes. And on a 2-game slate, again, you need to differentiate somewhere. So I would take some shots on Bjelica as well. And then Moses Moody, assuming he gets the start, 3-5, right. Not my favorite value, but acceptable.
Assuming he gets to start was the right way to put that, because it's not a guarantee. Although he started the past 2 games.
If he's off the bench, David, I have no interest in Moses Moody. You might be stuck at that point, but that's how I would treat it.
Yeah, we need some news to drop. 3 minutes until the slate locks, until the game, until the Ben Simmons game happens. I mean, I
need to catch up on all these tweets that have been posted in the chat and everything with him warming up and all that stuff.
He was warming up? Wow.
It looks like it. I think that's what Tyreek posted about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I want to go watch that game here in a second. But look, I pretty much agree. I'm lower on Bjelica. This is how I'm doing it, man. And this is how I was like preaching it last year. But it kind of changed with the formatting of FanDuel this year. Is that I used to say, like, you don't want to play you guys off the bench. And that was true for FanDuel at that time on a large slate. Now you have a slate where I think I think the players are pretty compact and you know where it's going, especially in that first game. The second game we'll know soon enough if like Will Barton's playing, and then if you have we just need the 5th starter for the Golden State Warriors. I don't think you have to get too crazy with it. I'm not like I don't love Bjelica. Like the best game of his season was the first game of the season, I believe, and he had just a monster, and people have been chasing him since. I understand Otto Porter's out. I get that. I mean, what are they going to roll him out against Cousins or in blowout time or Jokic, where Cousins will suck up all the rebounds, or Jokic, he's not getting on the floor because it's a close game and Jokic is out there? I just don't love it.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say this guy is I think for his career very close to a point per minute and slightly over a fantasy point per minute this season.
I like Bjelica.
Yeah.
I like him as a player. Yeah.
And I don't want to get it twisted. He's not my favorite value play on the slate. I would be multiple lineups in before I got him in, or if like a last guy in, if I only had 3-1 at a forward spot, then I'll go there. Just somebody I would mix in an MME, not a single entry priority for me, to be sure.
Who's your favorite play on the slate is Embiid?
Yeah. I know I'm bringing the hot takes today, David.
So I actually think that's very valuable because of how deep the position, not deep the position is, but good options there are in your 3 top options.
Sure.
I'm going to be sick if DeMarcus Cousins, who's got the 3rd best point per minute on the slate, finds his way into the optimal because the game blew out or something. But I don't think it will. I don't think it will. Who do you have like a fade on the slate? That's someone that you, I mean, slate's locked, but someone that you is gaining some steam that you think is a bad play?
I don't know about gaining steam, but I think just all day I've been really shy about getting to any Kyrie Irving. In my mind, again, obviously not allowed to play, but I would be way under on Kyrie Irving. And like, I don't think, David, like if I was playing, it may have been a night where I had 0 Kyrie Irving with him coming off the 50-point game and kind of all the buzz around that. So how about you? Like, is there, I know, again, we're locked, but is there somebody that you just completely ran away from?
It's like kind of the punt guys that were gaining like a ton of ownership, like Shake Milton, not that high on. Goran Dragic, not that high on. Think about what you like. So there's good spend ups at the guards. The forwards are like super thin. That's where you punt tonight. Small forward and power forward. That's where you punt. Sure. It's not at the guards. It's not at center. It's at the forward. So you just take the points at the guard. So I faded a lot of that. So it's probably Shake and Goran Dragic for me. And sorry, I'm sure people watching the show have Goran Dragic, but I did make the case earlier. Like I don't love him, but I know he's super cheap. Like could get there. If he gets 20 minutes again, probably does. I'm just not really that convinced that they're going to need to rely on the bench that much.
Sure. And I think part of my Goran Dragic love, again, he wasn't a lock for me, but I think he's somebody that I would have been over the field on, was kind of in conjunction with me not liking Kyrie Irving, getting the leverage by having his backup in there. And we know Goran Dragic throughout his career has been a good fantasy producer and a sub 4K price tag on DK. That's what drew me to that. But I know the field was getting there as well. That's going to do it for us, everybody. Enjoy the game. And if you want to have a little second screen action or come by at halftime of this first game, we're going to have a live FTN NBA podcast here in about 30 minutes, right here on the FTN YouTube channel. Joe Metz and I are going to do a mock expansion draft here, David. So we've gone through all the teams, protected 8 players from each team, and we're going to draft the reincarnated Supersonics and the Las Vegas franchise that are rumored to be coming in. So we're going to do that here in about 30 minutes. So anybody who wants to come hang out, be in the chat, the YouTube chat, there you go. Nice little graphic. Bring them back, the Seattle Sonics. That's what we're going to do. Live podcast here, 8 p.m. Eastern on the FTN YouTube channel.
Wait, so is that really going to happen?
That's the rumor. I think the league has denied it, but we've had various unnamed sources talking about that they're moving that direction. The mayor of Seattle was saying that they're working hard to do it, that he thinks it's going to happen. The big rumor is that there's a Vegas ownership group that wants to involve LeBron James when he retires and to bring a team to Las Vegas. So, we were talking about it on the pod last week, and we started looking at old expansion drafts from the Raptors and the Grizzlies and the Bobcats, et cetera, and looking at how the league did it. And we thought it would be fun to get together and do a little mock expansion draft.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I'll definitely be tuning into that. I'd love to see the Seattle Supersonics. They should throw the super in front of the Sonics if they're going with the Sonics. I like that. And is there a I'm sure there's not a rumored Vegas name, but I would be interested to see what they end up with. It's about time that Vegas was getting some professional teams. But you know what? They kind of have to pull in some extra business these days with gambling becoming legal all over the country and the rise of daily fantasy sports. You got to bring people into the city. That's one way to do it. You got to do it. So that probably happens. But it's not going to kill. It's not relocating 2 teams, right? It's just adding 2.
No, it would be adding 2. So we'd be up to 32 in the NBA at that point.
How would that work? Do they have to they wouldn't have to draft their entire team. I forget how it works when you add 2 or how many teams got added last time?
It was just the Bobcats last time. We went from 29 to 30. And so that was slightly different. The teams got to protect 10 players each that time. So the crown jewel of that expansion draft for the Bobcats, if you want to call it that, was Gerald Wallace. There were multiple players, and I'll go into more detail about how the expansion drafts work on the stream. But it's not a guarantee that the players drafted actually play for the team that selects them. They become free agents, and the right to negotiate is with the expansion team. So with 2 teams, you only protect 8. So there's a bit of a stronger player pool for us to choose from with 2 teams coming in. So that'll be nice.
I have 2 things left to say. There is who is your favorite value on the slate? And I think we have the same guy, and I think the game locked. And I think we should say it at the same time.
All right. Well, we go ahead. Count me in.
3, 2, 1. Matisse
Looney.
Kevon Looney is your favorite?
Yeah, I think it's. I wouldn't have a ton of them because I love Embiid, I love Drummond, etc. I didn't really count Drummond as a value. Looney 4-1 with what he's done, not just lately, but against the Nuggets. I think it's a really I don't have to play even 50% Looney. I don't think to be double the field. And he's very close with guys like Dragic. I think Tybalt would come in behind those guys for me, but you made the case and I agree with it. And I think Kuminga is there for me too. I like Kuminga a lot tonight.
Yeah, also a pretty good value guy. All right, man. The last thing I was going to say is tomorrow heading on the flight to New Orleans.
Hey, good luck.
Could be my last show. I don't know. We'll have to see how everything
with what happens in New Orleans when you're there.
Dude, I held back. I was on the show with you, and I held back on like things that I've seen in New Orleans.
You held back. We talked about a guy dying in front of you.
I mean, that was one of the extreme ones, but like I also held back some stuff. Like it is absolutely crazy there. And I've got my buddy's meeting me Friday night. He used to live there, and we're gonna go around and do all the stuff. And then Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I'm on my own. So we'll see how it goes. There will be Twitter updates and posts, but I think it's a tough slate too. It locks at 3, and the last game is at 9. It's the Lakers Suns, so it's an absolute full day of pivoting around and figuring out how you want to do it. And I'll also mention that we lose an hour because it's daylight savings time. Shit. Apparently they rented out Third Eye Blind for like Saturday night. Really? So I assume I'm walking out of that at like 3 a.m. with daylight savings time. And look, it's going to be a long weekend. I just want to place top 10 in that, and I'll be happy. I'm going to bring that.
We got Javi in the hockey final this weekend, right?
That's either tomorrow or Saturday. He texted me earlier, and I didn't understand what he was saying. But yeah, it's either he's in the Hockey Life final in Nashville. Nashville's a great city too, and I hope Javi's been hot lately. I think Javi's got a really good shot.
Well, best of luck to you. Best of luck to Javi, of course, and we'll be keeping up with that throughout the weekend. Appreciate everybody tuning in, sticking with us. Hit that like button on the way out. If you haven't, you can sign up for FTN Daily with the promo code FTNTV. All one word gets you 15% off your first month. For David, I'm Zach. Shout out producer Thomas behind the glass. Good luck tonight, everybody. And as always,
let's get these beans.